Wario Blast featuring Bomberman, released in 1994 for the Nintendo Game Boy, is a reskinned version of Bomberman GB. Some of you might be confused because there was a Bomberman GB released for Game Boy around these parts, but see, that's actually Bomberman GB 2, and look, the less said, the better off we all are. So you know Bomberman, right? The little person who bombs things in little rooms and stuff? The original version of this game had White Bomberman facing off against Black Bomberman and his band of Bomberman Misfits. But somebody at Nintendo apparently thought that'd be racist, which doesn't explain how Bomberman 2 came to be, since that's working off a similar premise, shall we say. And so they repackaged the game into a Wario game, where Wario fights Bomberman for the fate of something or other. I don't know. So you start a new game, you get to choose between Wario or Bomberman as your main hero. Wario or Bomberman? Wario or Bomberman? Wario or... oh, come on, is it not obvious? For fuck's sake, look at all those Bombermen on the border, look at how many Warios are there. Of course Wario's the babyface here, we gotta go with him. So you ever play those battle mode games in Bomberman where you and a number of other players are playing within a closed area trying to bomb each other to smithereens until only one Bomberman remains? That's Wario Blast in a nutshell for a couple dozen times. There's 8 worlds for you to contend in, each with a specific gimmick or two. In each world you'll play 4 rounds. The first against 1 enemy, the second against 2 enemies, the third against 3 enemies, and a final round against a big boss. In the first 3 rounds, the goal is to clear the board of foes, which, upon doing so, will net you a win. Win twice, and you move on to the next round. You lose twice, and it's game over. In the boss fights, which play out the same regardless of whether you're Wario or Bomberman, 1 loss ends your game, but you have unlimited continues and a very simple password system to resume your progress. On the field, you only have 3 power-ups: additional bombs, expanding flames, and the dreaded skull. As you defeat bosses and conquer different worlds, you'll eventually gain permanent upgrades to your arsenal: bomb kicking, dashing, enemy bumping, line bombing, and a motorbike to hop over boulders. Even without prior knowledge of localization, snafus, and title changes, and whatever the case may be, one look at Wario Blast makes it abundantly clear that it's a Bomberman game. And if you've played one Bomberman game, you've pretty much played them all. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, since Hudson has always been consistent with these Bomberman games in terms of the gameplay and the overall quality. It's one of the very few video game franchises that can be considered somewhat evergreen, and the only time it ever gets off the beaten path is in the rare spin-off, or in the even rarer fuck-up. With that in mind, Wario Blast plays about as well as any competent Bomberman game. You move around, you lay your bombs, you take cover, kill all the rivals, pick up some bits to increase your firepower, that sort of thing. Nothing ever really changes, and that's perfectly fine. The worlds will introduce new gimmicks requiring you to find neat tricks to gain the desired results, but that's about as far as depth goes in a relatively simple formula. Doesn't make it an easy romp though. Sometimes you'll need to be clever to defeat your foes, other times you'll luck out and your foes will off themselves, even off screen. The latter happens somewhat infrequently, so don't rely on that too much. Either way, you'll be in for a struggle. And for those wanting some of that multiplayer action, you've got that option here if you have a game link, otherwise the one mode is all you got, and a password to resume your progress. Fun fact, if you earn a password as one character and you put in the password in reverse, you'll play as the other character on the same stage, which is a nice way of sampling both characters without having to replay the whole game if you didn't want to. Wario Blast has some detailed graphics for a game of this ilk, down to the point where the individual Bomberman and Warios have unique sprites to themselves. It's a minor detail that you probably wouldn't pay attention to, but is a nice touch regardless. A Bomberman game on an 8-bit monochrome handheld thing isn't going to be the prettiest looking thing ever, but they made something that looked somewhat decent, and probably better looking visually than either of the 2 NES games if I'm being honest. And I do like the little caricatures that pop up in intermissions, and especially those game over pieces, when the character's just being blown up. It's almost worth losing a game or two to just bask in that fine artwork. With regards to sound, it's okay. Some half-decent sound effects to go along with some half-decent music, though nothing that really sticks to mind after the fact. I have to wonder if they redid the music for this Wario Blast release or if it's the same music as the original Bomberman GB release that's in Japan. Anyway, Wario Blast is one of those games designed with Super Game Boy compatibility in mind, and not only do you get this snazzy border of a billion Bombermen and one Wario looking on, not only do you get some varied color palettes for each world, but explosions actually sound like explosions thanks to some sound enhancement that adds to the experience. Also, Super Game Boy allows you to play the battle mode with up to 4 players if you have a multi-tap device, and if not, you can still do 2 players if you have a second controller on hand, so have fun with the very small arena. But it's something. Overall, Wario Blast featuring Bomberman for Game Boy is a good little Bomberman game. And that's the thing. It's a Bomberman game with Wario in it, and if you don't like Bomberman games, then Wario Blast isn't going to change your mind. If you don't care for the battling Bomberman battles that make up the multiplayer aspect of the Bomberman series, you just prefer the single-player stage-based gameplay, this might also not be up your particular alley. The fact that Wario is one of the major players in this game means absolutely nothing, because it's Bomberman's world, Wario's just pillaging it for his own means. But yeah, Wario Blast. Fun game, good multiplayer thing if you have a game link, good stuff.